今天呢，很荣幸，我们有请到了我们的 partner 合伙人 Mr. Becky Bethel from Number 5 Chambers,
Yes,
and also BP Chambers.
Yeah.
Number 5呢是英国排名前10的这种出庭大律师的律所。Chambers 呢最主要的目的是什么呢？就是一群大律师坐那儿，然后呢是专门处理法庭、开庭、上诉以及相关的法律争论的事情。今天要和大家公布的一个好消息呢，就是从2024年开始，我们和 Bethel 先生呢一起创办了一个新的大律师事务所，叫做 Bethel and Peterson Chamber。这个 Chamber 成立之后呢，彼得森律师行将不仅仅能够处理简单的移民事务、上诉事务、签证事务，我们能够更加专注于提供那些刑事、民事、婚姻、信托等等一系列的和英国相关的几乎是全方位的法律服务。这个呢是一个2024年的我们的一个新的一个动向和新的一个规划。首先呢，要向各位朋友、各位亲朋好友、各位领导汇报一下。但今天的话题呢，是我们新的律所出台之后呢的第一期视频。今天第一期内容呢，是希望通过视频，通过 Bethel 先生的加入呢，能够和大家进一步的详细的介绍关于英国的民事法律系统、刑事法律系统以及相关的移民法律系统。今天呢是第一期，我们有请 Becky 先生呢和我们简单的介绍一下我们大家最关心的一个话题，就是英国的移民的法庭的相关的系统和结构。Okay, let's welcome Mr. Becky Bethel. Introduce the basic structure of UK immigration court system. After the first one, we are going to introduce maybe civil court system, criminal court system. We are trying to help our audience to understand relevant UK court system, because that is a very important matter for all new immigrants, even for old immigrants like me. Been here for 22 years now, but I still need to learn them about the different legal system. So welcome back in Bethel.
well, thank you very much, Peter. It's a great pleasure to be here and to be able to explain to you in outline the court system which applies in the field of immigration. Essentially, it's in two parts. We have an appeal system which is dealt with in the tribunal, and then we also have a judicial review system which is to a certain extent dealt with in the tribunal, but then is also dealt with in the senior courts. So let's deal first of all with appeals. Appeals tend nowadays to be limited to so-called human rights appeals.
Yes.
And so if you're refused a visa, you won't necessarily get a right of appeal unless it also involves
Human rights.
Human rights.
Yes.
But if you get a human rights appeal, then your appeal will be in the first tier tribunal. So that is the first rung, the first ladder of the tribunal system. I know many first tier tribunal judges. Colleagues of mine have become first tier tribunal judges, and they are in the main a fair and independent bunch, and they are capable of making decisions. However, if you're not satisfied with the decision that they make, say they reject your appeal, then there is a further tribunal that you can appeal to.
Upper tribunal.
That's right, the upper tribunal, as you know, Peter. And you can appeal on what's called a point of law. So it's not completely straightforward, but you can apply to the upper tribunal for a new decision on your case if it's rejected by the first tier tribunal. There's a process which we have to go through, which is to make a paper application to get permission. But if you get permission, then there'll be a rehearing in the upper tribunal, and they can remake the decision or send it back to the first tier tribunal for a new decision there. So that's the system as it applies to human rights appeals in the tribunal. The important point to understand is that on an appeal, the court or the judges can substitute their view of your case for the view that the Home Office took. So they're not in any way bound by the decision of the Home Office. They can take their own decision. So in that sense, it's regarded as an excellent jurisdiction. But if you don't have a human rights appeal, and that's likely to be the case if you're refused a visa for the first time, or if you've only been in the country for a short period of time, then your remedy, if you're refused a visa, is something called judicial review. Now, judicial review is a process which begins in the upper tribunal. So you remember I was talking about appeals, you have the first tier and then you have the upper tribunal. Well, in judicial review, your case goes straight to the upper tribunal. And there again, you have to get permission of the judge to be able to go to a full hearing. But what's important to understand is that your rights on judicial review are more limited to those on appeal, because on a judicial review, the court's power to substitute its decision for the decision of the Home Office is more restricted. They have to pay greater respect to the decision of the Home Office. So in that sense, it is not as favourable as a right of appeal. But on the other hand, at least it exists as a remedy in the event that you're refused a visa. So that then in short terms is the difference between the tribunal system for appeals and then the tribunal system for judicial review. Sitting above both the tribunal by way of appeal and the upper tribunal by way of judicial review are the senior courts. And they also have a role to play if your case raises an important point of principle or practice, or if you can say that something went seriously wrong in the decision making of the tribunals below. But that would then get you an appeal in the Court of Appeal. The English Court of Appeal is a very impressive and august institution. It contains judges who will be the brightest and the best. And it's very much more difficult to get your case heard at that level. But if you do, then you can be assured that you'll get a very intense consideration of your case. And then sitting above the Court of Appeal is the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is essentially the highest court in the UK. And they only take the most important cases. But if your case were to raise an important point, so important indeed that it went to the Supreme Court, again, you can be assured of an independent decision by judges who are not likely to follow blindly the decision of the Home Office. As a case that you may have heard of, the Rwanda appeals cases show. So the government is intent on sending asylum seekers who arrive in the UK by small boat to Rwanda, a country in Africa, to have their asylum claims dealt with there. And if they succeed in their asylum claims, to live in Rwanda. And the question for the appeal tribunals and the courts was whether it was safe for people to be sent to Rwanda. And the government had put a lot of effort, energy and money into creating this policy, but the Supreme Court struck it down and said it was unlawful. So that's
because of human rights.
Because of human rights, exactly, because of human rights. But it's an example of the Supreme Court demonstrating its independence from government, because the policy of sending asylum seekers to Rwanda was a very important part of the government's political program. And it failed in the courts. And so it demonstrates that the courts are able to act independently of government. But sitting beyond and over and above the United Kingdom Supreme Court is the European Court of Human Rights. and that's a court in Strasbourg. And that's a court made up of judges from, say, some 41 European countries who are all parties to the European Convention on Human Rights. And if your appeal fails in the United Kingdom Supreme Court, you can appeal to the court in Strasbourg.
Even nowadays, UK get rid of European Union. We still can apply to the
Strasbourg Court,
right?
Yeah, absolutely, because the European Union was a different system, and that had a supranational court in Luxembourg.
Mm-hmm.
Now
that's the reason why UK won't get rid of your European Union, right?
Absolutely. So we left the UK left the European Union, and so it removed itself from the jurisdiction of the Luxembourg court.
Mm-hmm. So what's the point? Why UK tried so desperately to get rid of European Union, but still have to follow the instruction from European Human Rights Convention?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and I wish I could tell you that there was a straightforward and simple answer, but there isn't. The fact is that it was a very popular manifesto on which the previous government under Boris Johnson succeeded in winning a general election on the basis that the UK would leave the European Union. That must have been for a mix of reasons, and it took a fair time after the vote, but the UK eventually left the European Union. So that means that the UK is free to make its own policy, to arrive at its own political program without the influence of the European Union. But whatever program the government comes up with, it has to comply with the basic human rights which are guaranteed by the European Convention of Human Rights. It have to be said that those rights are basic. They are a minimum threshold. So that, for example, the right to a fair trial, the right not to be tortured, the right to respect for your family life, those are key.
Article 3, Article 8, right?
Yes, okay. Article 3 and Article 8, yeah.
I think that is another simple way to express our opinion or our experience to our audience, that by a very simple story.
Yeah.
For example, from my experience in the past 21 years, deal with immigration matter, the most common right of appeal or appeal case is in the spouse visa.
Right.
Yeah, because spouse visa is an obviously human rights involved case.
Yes.
In the old days, everybody can appeal, right? Even the entrepreneur visa, student visa refused, you can easily raise the appeal, right of appeal to the tribunal court. So back 10 years ago, if we submit the application of the appeal to list in the court, take 12 months.
Okay.
Nowadays, much quicker, 6 months. Okay, so let's give our audience an example. For example, if you apply for spouse visa in the 1st of January, you refused in 1st of February, let's see, then we have 28 days to raise the appeal, submit the application if in country is for free, right? So within 28 days, which means before 28th of February, we have to submit an application to the court.
Yes.
Court receive our application. It's going to cost them maybe 2 months to list our case into a particular courtroom, which has been the end of April. We are going to receive a letter saying, look, dear Mr. A, we are going to list the case in maybe August.
Yes.
Right. So from February, you receive decision to the court application listed in the courtroom. Cost 6 months.
At least. Yes.
At least 6 months.
Yes.
Okay. So after the court hearing date, we are going to have decision within 7 days, roughly 7 working days.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay. No, working days. Okay. So 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So after 2 weeks, if we failed in terms of the first tier tribunal, we are talking about first tier tribunal. If we fail in the first tribunal, then we have to apply for the right of appeal again to the upper tribunal.
Yes.
Right? If upper tribunal allowed our application for the permission,
Yeah.
then we got another date
Yes.
for the hearing.
Another 6 months.
Another 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay, then which is mean higher level judge is going to go through all the appeal documents again.
Yes.
To have a decision and for another 6 months.
Yes.
If we fail that in upper tribunal,
Yes.
that in the UK our only remedy is go to judicial review,
Yes. Well, you can potentially go to the Court of Appeal,
Court of Appeal.
but it's only a very rare case that would get there.
Yeah.
So that most times you would probably say, well, look, that's enough. I might have to reapply
Yeah.
or think of some other strategy.
Yeah.
The point about judicial review comes in when at the first tier you ask for permission to appeal,
Yeah.
but it's refused.
Okay.
And then it's refused twice.
Go straight to.
Then you might try judicial review of the decision to refuse you permission to appeal. But again, that's a very rare and a very rarely used remedy. But I mean, it exists. Yeah.
Judicial review is the most beautiful
Yeah.
regulation in the world,
Okay.
from my understanding.
Yeah.
I tell you why.
Yeah.
Because in the UK, we can say that it's a small government,
Yeah.
big citizen.
Yeah.
Because all the citizens have power to, to take the government authority to the court.
Yes.
Everybody can do that.
Yeah.
Planning permission,
Yeah.
council tax.
Yes.
Whatever the council or the authority make decision, you are not happy, you are
Yeah.
not satisfied. You
Yeah.
can get a barrister like Beckett, Barefoot to take the government to the court.
Yes, that is true.
That's the most beautiful thing.
Absolutely. I think for if you come from a country where that is not a possibility,
China. Yeah.
then it must come as a bit of a shock to realise that in the UK you can challenge decisions of public authorities,
Yeah.
of government officials, of bureaucrats. So they are not, as it were, a law unto themselves. You can challenge their decisions. However, it does cost money
Yes.
and it does take time.
Yes.
And you do need expert help
Professional. Yes.
to do that.
I saw one data analyst in 2020 before the COVID.
Yeah.
The court system data shows 85% appeal
Yeah.
were allowed in the
Right.
first tier tribunal
Wow. Yeah.
in terms of immigration.
Yeah.
So which is mean that the Home Office is doing something, cost the money, cost the time.
Yeah.
But in the final battle, if
Yeah.
they fail, they still have to give the visa.
That's
grant
right.
the visa.
Yes. Again, that is a good point to make. It shows that the government and the Home Office will try anything to delay
Or do
and
something.
to put obstacles in the path. Probably knowing full well that the decision, if it's appealed, will be overturned. But there's nothing they can do about it if the decisions are overturned.
Yeah.
They have to go to court in the same way that the little person does.
Yeah,
And they have to persuade a court that the decision was wrong. If
They still have to consider the cost of time, cost of
Yes.
the barrister represent
Yes.
him to inform the judge.
Absolutely.
So it's quite important message I want to send to our audience. Okay, if you think that the authority or the government doing something wrong, the first thing you should seek is the professional advice.
Yes, absolutely.
Because from the legal system, from the UK law system, your right is fully protected by the legal structure,
Yeah.
by the professional.
Yeah.
So all the audience, all my friends, if you got any legal issue or legal matter you think is unfair, you should approach us. We may not able to help you in certain level of your case, but we certainly can advise you how to sort out the problem or how to identify the problem from the professional's perspective.
Yes.
I think that's very important. You may don't understand law, but you must understand the basic principle of law.
Yes.
That's what we are
Yes.
doing, what we are trying to help.
Yes.
So I think that's the first first video from back in Peterson Chamber. First video to promote our principle, to help all the friends to understand basic or fundamental legal principle, to help you to deal with all the matters or all the instances happened in your life.
Yes.
Please contact us if you have any question. We are more than happy to help you.
Yep.